We now have our final alumni award of the program. Following this award, Dr. Taylor will come up to introduce the parent award. Next, I'd like to present the Honorary Alumni Award, recognizing a non-alum for his or her exemplary service to Cabrini University. This year's recipient is Professor Emerita Carol Heck Serotta. Professor Emerita doesn't even begin to cover all the titles and hats that Carol has worn since her arrival in January of 1977 as an adjunct math professor. She eventually was hired as full-time faculty with a split designation of math and computer science. As Cabrini expanded its computer science department, she became a full-time math professor and department chair from 1995 to 2003. For those of you who knew Carol, which is probably everyone here tonight, as well as every alum to have graduated within the last 4 decades, knows how dedicated Carol is to the Cabrini and, most of all, its students. Her work expanded far beyond the classroom walls as she volunteered her time to countless committees, to name just a few, because naming them all would keep us here all night. Carol served on committees for faculty development, academic grievance, and master planning. She has also acted as an advisor of the Math and Science Honor Society and created and managed the original Math Technology Lab. But one of her most favorite roles she has played at Cabrini is the judge for the Mr. and Miss Cabrini pageant. She has been a judge every year except one over the last 15. She has been recognized in various Who's Who's publications and is a recipient of the Lindback Distinguished Teaching Award. While Carol retired 4 years ago, she is still a regular on campus as a tutor in the Math Research Center and chairs the monthly retirees lunch meetings. I've actually seen a picture of that on Facebook. I'm really impressed. Students, alumni, faculty, and staff unanimously love Carol. Bob McGee, former Cabrini Math Department Chair, who could not be here tonight, hired Carol. He saw firsthand the impact she had on the student body. He said, "Going into the cafeteria with Carol was an adventure. We would go in together, but I would be eating dessert before she sat down because she was always interacting with students. Her support of their activities, whether plays, sporting events, or whatever event that someone invited her to, was legendary. At the heart of Cabrini, and what makes it so special, is our faculty. Without a doubt, Carol symbolizes what a fiercely dedicated faculty member, even in retirement, looks like at Cabrini. It's the Alumni Association's great pleasure to please invite Carol to come forward to receive the 2019 Honorary Alumni Award.
That's good.
Right there.
That's right, good. And then I could read it from the back. I'll be the first one to fall over the thing that's been here all night. Because I always find a new adventure to explore. I'd like to say that everything he said was true. So I probably have nothing else to say to add to that, but that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I have a different perspective than the last few people who spoke, because all of them were under me at one point. Many of them were students in my classroom, and they all were super. And I only say it because they paid me nicely before. But mostly because it's true. Now, if only I could see what I have written here. I, too, have the tear ducts that I bequeath to Lisa. Well, thank you again so much for this tremendously terrific honor. I said again, notice? I thought I would begin my remarks with my end statement. Beginning at the beginning is so ordinary, But now that I am a Cabrini University alum, I felt that I must do something extraordinary. I don't know if starting at the end is extraordinary, but it is different. So I will begin again. First, let me say, I love Cabrini. Since I believe most of you here also love Cabrini, I can conclude that you must love me too. Okay, don't buy it. I mean, the logic behind that means that they have to rehire me immediately to teach more logic courses and more mathematics. Because I love Cabrini and you love Cabrini does not legally mean that you have to love me. You might not even know me, but I hope you will love me by the end of my speech. If for no other reason than I get to the end. I hope you were able to see a bit of the humor that I tried to put into the introduction. This was my modus operandi for teaching mathematics, to make students enjoy mathematics while learning mathematics in an intellectually honest way. How can I express my gratitude to this university for giving me the honor, the opportunity to do what I love most with students that were so easy to love? I used to have a sign above my office door that said, "Through these doors walk some of the best students anywhere." And so it was. I began my days here on a snowy day in January. Surprise. Schools were closed everywhere, but I would not dare miss my first day at Cabrini College. I never went to a college that closed its doors for snow. Whatever. Since their schools were closed, I arrived at Cabrini with my 4- and 6-year-old in tow. I arrived about 2.5 hours late, as it took me over 3 hours to get here. Surely I had missed my class, but I wanted to guarantee the school that I was not a slacker. When I finally arrived to the campus, the math department chair, Bob McGee, was there to greet me and inform me that the school was indeed closed. And that we were probably the only 2 non-residents on the campus that day. Bob and I were doctoral students together at Penn. There's a lot more to that story, and I could keep you busy for hours with just that story. But from that humble, and in hindsight, humorous beginning, I began my tenure at the best little college north of Texas. Bob and I ruled the mathematics department for some 30 years, each of us holding the reins at some point, but always together with whatever phrase is the opposite of ruling with an iron hand. I dare say we had one of the most respected math departments in the area, as the number of non-Cabrini students who enrolled in our classes was rather impressive. But I digress, which is me. Everybody knows. You know, you learned about tangents in math class. Good, fell off on one, right? Everybody has to do what they're good at. And you got to practice, so I'll practice again. From the first day I came here with 2 of my children, family not complete yet, we realized that we had entered perhaps the biggest and certainly the best family ever. I had the opportunity to watch Cabrini, who graduated fewer than 100 students a year, grow into the university that it is today. My children, all of them, were all part of this family and grew up knowing so many of my colleagues, all of whom were mentioned here, they knew them, and their families also. Even as I retired with tears, which many that are here will attest to, I never wanted to relinquish the joy and love that abounded for me right here in Radnor. We all grew up, as did the campus. When I arrived here, there was 1 classroom building, 1 dorm, a mansion, and a converted stable among the glorious trees and the still beautiful ambience of this site. I can't say enough to thank all of you and those who came before you for giving me the title of the masochist. And the opportunity to know all those students who still mean so much to me. I walk in here tonight, it's students I haven't seen in years. It's like old times. All these students who crop up everywhere, from a cruise ship in Australia to a third grade class in Radnor, to countless venues I could never begin to describe. Forget about walking to the mall. I was always thrilled when I was able to celebrate so many athletic victories with our students, to participate in theater performances, to being a judge in so many wonderful and diverse activities, including the Mr. and Ms. Cabrini pageant. Cabrini gave me the opportunity to be a chaperone, a tour guide, and a scholar. It gave me the opportunity to be a surrogate parent, a person who has been cried upon and hugged countless times. I always made it a point to stop and smell the roses when I came onto campus. A wise man once said, and I have modified this a bit, because I'm a woman. And that gives me the right to modify things, right? If you get paid for doing something, it is work. If you pay to do something, that is pleasure. And if you do it for nothing, it's really a great pleasure. I continue to get great pleasure every time I walk on this campus, whether it is to tutor in the Math Resource Center, attend an event, or to have lunch with someone from my Cabrini family. I'd like to put it into a little anecdotal form. My friend Ruby Remley, who has been here almost from the start with me, has been telling this joke recently, and I thought I'd share it with you. So you see, there's these three animals, 2 dogs and a cat, and they're going up to heaven. So the gatekeeper says to the first dog, a beautiful little collie, says, "Collie, what kind of a dog were you? Tell me about yourself." So the collie stands up straight, says, "I was a wonderful dog. My family loved me. I was with them all the time. I never did anything bad. Anything they wanted, I did, and I was always well loved, and I loved them." "Very good, Collie. You may sit on my left side." "And you, Doberman, what did you do?" "Oh, I protected my family. I was a great dog. I never ate off the table. I never did any of those things. I was wonderful." "Very good, dog. You may sit on my right side." And the cat jumps up and says, "Excuse me, I think you're in my seat." What does that have to do with being a Cabrini? Well, they were trying to get into heaven, but I have been here for a long time, in my own little heaven right here in Radnor. And I would take any of the 3 seats anybody offered me to come back here at any time. I can't thank you enough for giving me an award for doing what I love most. Thank you so much.